We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AV Rant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to this special episode of AV Rant. My name is Rob H., and right now I'm here with...
Joe Klusnick, Kaleidescape fan.
Indeed, he just gave it away there, and in case you didn't read the title of this special breakout episode, this is an interview with one Michael Kobb from Kaleidescape. He was very kind to join us for just a little over an hour. We were aiming for an hour, but it's AV Rant. We can't help ourselves. We always go a little bit over the time. But yes, naturally, we're going to be talking about their latest bit of hardware, the Strato K movie player that has recently released, and we dig into lots of technical details. There might be some tidbits in this episode that you don't find in other podcasts that are out there, so it's going to be worth a listen, I think, and it was a great time. What did you think, Joe? I mean, we're recording this intro after we've done the interview, so we already know how it went.
Yeah, always fun to talk to the experts, find out, from the horse's mouth what the deal is with the new products.
And I have to give my thanks to my co-host right now, Mr. Joe Klusnick. He's the one who really set up this interview behind the scenes and got the ball rolling on all of this. So yes, thank you, Joe, and thank you to Michael, of course. And there's another fellow over at Kaleidescape, Josh, who really helped coordinate all of the scheduling and everything behind the scenes. So big thanks to all of those gentlemen. And you might notice Tom Andry, the regular host of AV Rant, is not here for this special breakout episode. That is purely a scheduling thing. We have limited time in our schedules to do all of this, and we try our best, but unfortunately that just didn't work out, so we don't get to have Tom along for this interview, but Rob H. is here, and Joe Klusnick is here, and of course Michael from Kaleidescape is here. So before we jump straight into the interview, just want to let everybody know this is AV Rant. This is your home theater and AV questions answered, and if you would like to get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. That is our email address. You can visit us on our website, avrant.com, to see all of our show notes and links and things like that. And you can join us on YouTube, youtube.com/avrant, and you'll be able to see the interview. Mike does appear on camera, so you can see that, and we'll have a few little images that I intersperse there along the way that might help explain a few things. So it's a good experience to watch this podcast interview on youtube.com/avrant if you'd like to. All right. Anything you'd like to prepare us for, Joe, before we jump right into the interview with Michael?
No, let's get it started.
Let's do it. All right, so everybody welcome in, and please say welcome to Michael Kobb from Kaleidescape. Michael, it is a pleasure to have you join us here on AV Rant Podcast today. How are you?
Hey, I'm very well. Pleasure to be here.
Well, for the AV Rant community that might not be familiar with you, could we just hop right in? Maybe you can briefly introduce yourself. We only have an hour together, so maybe not go on too many tangents, any of us, but tell us about yourself and your position at Kaleidescape, if you would.
Sure. Well, I guess I have an official title at Kaleidescape. I actually kind of wear a number of hats, but official title is Principal Engineer User Experience. And what that means in practice is I'm involved with the user interface design of all of our products. And I'm also the mobile developer. So I used to do software development for our players, user interface software development for the players. A number of years ago, I transitioned actually to doing mobile development. So I'm currently responsible for our iOS and Android applications. And various other things here and there, like sharing the good word about our products with folks like you.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of our audience are watching a lot of other YouTube and podcast and influencer shows and things like that. So Kaleidescape's been in the zeitgeist lately, and with good reason. But we'll dig into all of that in just a moment. Before we get to that, it is tradition around here at AV Rant, whenever we have a new guest on the show, we like to find out what you, Michael, have in your very own personal home theater. No better way to get to know somebody as far as we're concerned. So again, without taking up the entire hour, because heavens knows home theater fans can talk about their own theater for a good long hour, but maybe you can run through the details of your theater rather briefly.
Sure. Yeah, I have a dedicated home theater that I built a little over 10 years ago now, I guess. Time flies. Turned into a gut remodel of the whole house, but the theater itself is it's a dedicated space. It's about 18 by 24 feet. 2 rows of seats. My front row is actually lower than my back row, which was accomplished by saw cutting the slab and excavating and pouring a new slab, a new lowered slab. So my build thread on AVS Forum is called Mike's Money Pit. And the room was designed with considerable assistance from Keith Yates Design Group. They worked on the architecture and the interior design and the acoustic design and the systems as well. We have, quiet HVAC and stuff like that in the room. It's not engineered to the degree that most of their very high-end projects are, but it is, the room measures really well. It's very, very quiet. And then let's see, in terms of equipment, it's a projection system. So it's a Sony 995 ES with a 110-inch screen research, acoustically transparent woven screen. The fronts I have a pair. So the intention was to make it good for music listening as well as theater. So my front, left, and right are Ariel Acoustics Model 9 floor standers. My center is a Ariel CC5, which is behind the screen. And then the surrounds are Tannoy side and rear surrounds. It's a 7.1 room. It was built before Atmos, just before Atmos really came into the home, unfortunately. 7 subwoofers total, 3 Seaton submersive HPs, and 4 Velodyne SCIWs. The number of subs was a Keith Yates design element to help smooth the bass response in the room. It's not really about blowing the windows into the street. And then source. I guess amplification. Sunfire Cinema Grand for the 7. The submersives are powered, and the Velodynes have an amp that goes with them, a rack-mounted amp that goes with them. Trinov Altitude 16 processor and a Trinov MC. That's a historical artifact. The room was originally designed with the Trinov doing the room correction, and then I added the altitude a little while ago in anticipation of an eventual Atmos update to the room. So eventually the room correction will move into the altitude and the MC will get retired. But source devices, you can probably safely imagine that there's a Kaleidescape system involved.
Shocking.
2 actually, because I use what we call our CoStar solution, which uses a Premiere system and then one of the newer Strato Terra systems paired together, so I can still do disk-based media as well as downloaded media. I haven't totaled it recently. 80 or 90 terabytes of storage, something like that. I also have I have an Apple TV in there for streaming stuff, and a Sony 4K Blu-ray player that occasionally gets turned on, and a Lumagen Radiance Pro video processor that's there for calibration, and also it's part of my screen masking solution as well. So let's see, did I leave anything out? I think that's probably good.
What's your control method?
Control 4.
Control 4. All right. Yep. Makes a lot of sense. I just the curiosity got me piqued with the 7 subs and originally a 7-channel layout. Did you do the subs are positioned very close to the 7 speaker channels, or were the subs arrayed completely independently of the speakers' positions?
Completely independently. So Keith Yates has a proprietary process that uses computational fluid dynamics to figure out, where to best position the subwoofers. So, like 3 of the SCIWs are actually in the ceiling.
Okay.
And one of them is in a sidewall, and then two of the submersives are up front, and the other one is in the other sidewall. So, it's a weird layout, but that's where the CFD said it should go.
And not going to be a whole lot of moving those subs around after they're installed, I don't think.
No, I mean, it's a fully acoustically treated room, with, fabric wall type deal. So yeah, getting behind those is a giant pain. And the submersives are the submersives just weigh 1 million pounds and
right.
are shoehorned into a cabinet. So,
I gotta tell you, Michael, out of all the guests we've had, that is the perhaps the most impressive list of gear and bespoke room setup that we've had out of all our guests, and that's including CEOs of companies. It's a very often it's a do as we say, not as we do situation, which is certainly true for myself as a host of a home theater podcast. So gotta hand it to you, Michael. That's impressive stuff.
Well, thank you. There are benefits to being single. So, yeah, I am unconstrained by the need to, have a spousal approval. So,
right on. Well, we are here with our occasional guest co-host Joe Klusnick, and we're going to hop right into the more technical and AVRant questions. So, Joe, why don't you take us away?
Hi, Mike. Good to meet you. So,
hey,
we're primarily here today to talk about Kaleidescape's newest piece of hardware, the Strato K movie player. Please tell us a bit about the product and why Kaleidescape decided to develop it at this time.
Sure. Well, yeah, so Strato K, which was just announced a couple of weeks ago, is our new flagship player. It is the world's first 8K Association certified 8K movie player. And we have also leveraged that capability to develop and deploy a new 4K format called 4K Cinematic, which I know we'll talk about a little bit more in a bit.
Yes.
But that's a format that relies upon the processing capabilities and some of the other hardware features of the 8K platform to deliver a really fantastic 4K experience as well. It is, for folks who are maybe not super familiar with our product family, this player has about 1 terabyte of onboard storage, which is enough for, on the order of a dozen-ish movies, a little fewer depending on format. So it can act as a complete solution. You can just, buy a Strato K and that's your Kaleidescape player solution. But of course, it also works with our server products. So people who want to maintain a larger library at home purchase a server and they connect over the network, and the player then plays the content that's stored on the movie server. And then in terms of why we developed this product, it's really about, our whole mission as a company is to produce the best home movie viewing experience possible.
Right.
And this player allows us to take things to a new level, and so that is why we developed it.
Yeah, and
so,
I was afraid this was going to be an expensive conversation from the start for me, because I'll be probably putting my Strato 10 out to pasture pretty soon and looking to get one of these guys.
So we can. Sorry, go ahead.
We will be very happy to sell you one.
So we can, of course, see that you have the prior models, and we'll be talking a little bit about those if we have time towards the end of the podcast here. But sure. With the new Strato K, we were curious about how does it differ internally from, say, the other 4K models that also support Dolby Vision, because that is a feature of the Strato K. It supports Dolby Vision as well, whereas some of the models prior to the E and the V did not support Dolby Visions. That was a new feature coming in. So compared to the Strato E, compared to the Strato V, is it like there's a new system on chip and that's really mostly the totality of it, or what's the internal hardware difference going on with the Strato K?
Sure. So a couple of years ago, we launched our first Dolby Vision capable player, which was the Strato V, and that marked a transition for us from one system on chip that had been used in the prior versions of the Strato player to a new chip from a different supplier. And there were two reasons behind the selection of that particular chip. One, of course, is that it could do Dolby Vision, which the previous chip did not support. And then the other reason is that this is coming from a vendor that has a product roadmap for progressive improvement. And so that was a factor for us when we selected them for Strato V, was that they had other solutions on the way, including one that would support 8K. So that was a conscious decision for that. And then, in terms of the internal hardware, so because it's a different system on chip, it's not a pin compatible chip with the previous generation that was in Strato V and Strato E. It is a completely new board, and yes, the entire. I should say, you could kind of see from the exploded view there that it's basically a single board design, and it's an all new board because in addition to the SoC, there's also an all new HDMI layout on it because this player supports HDMI 2.1. Which the older players supported HDMI 2.0A, I think.
So I guess to make it explicit for anyone checking it out, that there's not going to be a way to upgrade your Strato E or your Strato V to become the same capabilities as a Strato K. There actually is a full-on hardware difference that can't just be a firmware update or something like that.
That's correct. Yeah, it's entirely different hardware.
Okay.
So the first thing people might notice about the Strato K is its unique ability amongst Kaleidescape players to output 8K resolution. But if we dig into the Strato K's specs a little bit, we see that 8K output does have some limitations. 8K tops out at 30 frames per second, not 60. Chroma subsampling for 8K tops out at 420. And HDR10 is supported for 8K but not Dolby Vision. We can also see that the HDMI 2.1 output of the Strato K tops out at 24 gigabytes per second, not 48 or 40. So what led to these design decisions or limitations?
Yeah, principally the capabilities of the SoC. We'll talk a little bit more about 420 stuff when we get into talking about 4K cinematic, but long story short, a system on chip like this has hardware as part of the die that does video decoding. And so the capabilities for video decoding on this chip are 8K at 10-bit 420, and that's what the decoder can do. And similarly, combination of chip capabilities and its ability to access storage and memory bandwidth drive things like the frame rate capabilities and so forth, and that's also the source of the 24 gigabit HDMI 2.1, which it should be noted 24 gigabit is sufficient to deliver 8K 420 10-bit at 30 frames per second. So it's it doesn't need to be faster. And so it isn't.
Part of HDMI, though, is the ability to use that DSC, display stream compression, being able to fit some more data losslessly within the data bit bandwidth that's available on the port there. So again, it's not like there's going to be some kind of firmware update that unlocks more bandwidth on a hardware level, but is there any possibility, say, like if you wanted to support 8K 60, that display stream compression could be a part of that?
I don't think so, and largely because I just don't think that the SoC would support decoding 8K 60. Okay. Because of it's not so much an output requirement, but it's how quickly can you shovel bits from storage into memory and into the chip and back out again and through the video pipeline and so forth. So it is we're running the chip pretty close to its capacity
Okay.
at the moment. So yeah.
So, I mean, it's the 8K logo is prominent on the webpage and all that. That might be the first thing that somebody sees. But I think pretty fair to say that at least today, the majority of what Kaleidescape owners are going to be downloading from the Kaleidescape store is going to be 4K resolution, not 8K resolution, probably for the foreseeable future as well. But yes, we've already mentioned it and alluded to it. The Strato K has another unique ability amongst the Kaleidescape players. This is exclusive to the Strato K, and that is this new 4K cinematic format. So what can you tell us about the 4K cinematic format?
Yeah, well, actually, let me just real quick before I dive into that talk about 8K content.
Sure.
I believe the current situation is that we have exactly one 8K title on the store,
Okay.
which is a short film, and it's free. We licensed it basically for people to be able to demonstrate and try out the 8K. It's cool. It's a cool short film, but there has been until now a kind of a chicken and egg problem with 8K, cinematic content. There are a number of studios that have done either capture at high resolution, higher than 4K resolution with digital cameras, or have scanned film assets at higher than 4K, like up to 8K or beyond in some cases. But in terms of having the motivation as a content provider, as a studio, to actually produce finished assets in 8K, they've been understandably slow to do that because there's not been really a way to actually deliver that to anybody. And so, we, in a sense, hope that we have broken that logjam by now having an actual solution available, to the residential market that can play 8K content. And we're in, active conversations with several major studios about securing some 8K content. So we think that'll come. But as you said, it's not like this stuff is sitting around on a shelf ready to just be turned loose. So it'll be a while before there's a very large library of 8K content available. And
have
so
you,
that's...
sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
I was going to say, have you talked to the guys over at JVC? I know they have 8K content that they were using to demo some projectors, things like that at CEDIA, but their 8K was on a huge server they'd bring with them. But is there any chance for non-commercial stuff like that to make its way on for demonstration purposes?
I think that's certainly possible. We have talked to some, smaller kind of, not necessarily movie studio type entities that have, like you said, 8K nature footage and just stuff that looks great in 8K.
Right.
But yeah, for demo purposes, yeah, for sure.
It's almost been like a little bit of a teeter-totter. We had 8K displays, like televisions, flat panels. There was a number of them for a while, and then that has shrunk. I think it's kind of Samsung might be the only game in town with brand new 8K TV models right now. So but if the content comes, then the display's coming back. It's not as though they don't know how to make the displays. They were doing it for a while. It was more of a market pressure thing that took the 8K displays away. So yeah, that could be it. You might be the key.
I think that's right. Yeah, there were displays available, and as you say, there are still displays available, but understandably. But as you said, it's clear that they can be made. So
yep.
And this is one of the things that the 8K Association, is also trying to promote is displays and other associated pieces. So yeah.
All right.
So yeah, getting back to your earlier question, Joe, about 4K cinematic. So yeah, this was something that we realized as we were developing the platform that, we had an opportunity to do something really great with 4K. And if you'll indulge me, I'll give a kind of a real quick little kind of summary of the state of affairs prior to Strato K, and why we think 4K cinematic is exciting. So digital home entertainment, so disc-based streaming, et cetera, all maybe shouldn't say all because somebody will come up with some example, but virtually all, but probably all, is produced in a format where to save space and bandwidth, the color information is sampled at a lower spatial resolution than the brightness information. So for something like 4K video, where there are 3840 by 2160 physical pixels, you have that many pixels of brightness information, but you have exactly a quarter of that many pixels for color information. So this is what's called 420 color and chroma subsampling.
And this is our YCBCR signals, the Y standing for Luma. That's the black and white at full resolution, but the CBCR is coming in at a quarter resolution for all the chroma information.
Correct. Yep. So if you think about sort of a grid of pixels, you get like a little square containing 4 pixels, and that's got one splat of color on top of 4 little pixels of brightness. So, this is done, as I said, to save space. It's relying on the fact that our eyes are more sensitive to brightness than they are to color. So it's a not unreasonable trade-off, but it is a trade-off. And when you consider, for example, like a home theater application where you have probably a larger screen, hopefully a light-treated room where you're, really immersed in the image. It is you are trading away something in that case. But the 420 chroma subsampling is so prevalent that it has influenced the design of hardware decoders. So I mentioned to you that the 8K decoder in Strato K can decode 8K in 420, and this is why, is because this has been the standard for how all this content is delivered. But interestingly, the content starts its life coming from the movie studio in a format that has full color information for every pixel. This is what's called 444. And that's what is present in nearly all of the what's called a mezzanine file, which is the very, very high quality source file that we get from the studio that we then encode for delivery to our players. And so we realized, hey, we have all of these assets that are 4K 444, or in some cases 4K 422. There are some mezzanine files in that format. And 422 is just half resolution color. So you still have double the color of 420, but it's not a color for every pixel. And what we realized is, hey, this 8K, so 8K 420, if you think about 4K 420, that quarter resolution color is basically 2K. It's right. An HD color representation. So by the same token, 8K 420 has 4K chroma resolution. So that means that the chip had to be capable of decoding 4K worth of chroma.
Sure.
And so we realized, hey, we can actually do, a custom format that'll be 4K of Luma and 4K of chroma delivered to the display, and, really take a step forward in the appearance of 4K content by leveraging the capabilities of this 8K hardware. Additionally, 8K requires higher bandwidth. It just requires, more bits per second to do 8K decoding, which means that the chip and all of the underlying systems of the player can handle that bandwidth. And that in turn allows us to give higher bit rate to our 4K content as well. So the player has the muscle to be able to decode 4K at higher bit rate. Some of that goes to the color information. Excuse me, something fell on the floor.
No worries.
Some of that goes to the color information, and some of that just goes to providing more bits to the encoder to deliver a higher quality picture. All this content is using temporal encoding, frame differences from frame to frame. And the more bits that you can give that process, the better representation of the original that you get on the output. So the combination of higher quality encode and better chroma is what 4K cinematic is all about.
All right.
So what happens if you download a 4K cinematic file onto a player that's not connected to a TV that can handle a 444 input?
Yeah, so that is a consideration. And the current state of affairs is that there are displays, 4K displays, that can fully process 444, 4K 444. And so in that case, awesome. You get the full benefit. However, I would say there are kind of three buckets. There's that bucket, the fully capable display. Then there's what I would consider a kind of a partially capable display. So there are one source for 4K 444 that does exist today is video gaming systems. So video games, computer graphics typically are done with full chroma resolution. And so there are displays that support 4K 444 for purposes of gaming. But the other consideration for gamers is that they want very low latency. They don't want a lag as they're trying to, navigate the virtual world. And so what exists in a lot of cases are these 4K displays that enable 444, but only in game mode. Mm-hmm. And game mode turns off all of the other processing that adds that latency. And unfortunately, some of that processing is the stuff that you need to make cinematic content look good on that particular panel. So, our recommendation in the case of someone who has a display that you need to put in game mode to do 444 is to evaluate, how that looks. We are aware that there are some displays, we've had reports, let's say, that there are some displays where when you put them in game mode, it's really not a very good experience for cinematic content because, you start to get like posterization or banding and stuff that really is not an issue in a video game, but would be distracting in a movie. And then we get into our third bucket, which is displays that are obviously 4K capable displays, but where all of their internal processing is done in 422. So what happens in those cases is the display, the HDMI specification requires that certain combinations of frame rate and bit rate and so forth end up with 444 chroma. And but that doesn't mean that the display has to pipe it all the way through once it accepts it on the HDMI port. So what they end up doing is they take in the 422, they downsample it to, they take in the 444, they downsample it to 422, and then all of the remaining processing is done in 422 space. And that's actually, I mentioned I have a Radiance Pro in my theater. That's what the Radiance Pro does. So all of its internal pipeline is 422.
So it's not exclusively like inexpensive or only entry level is ever going to have that limitation. It's like it can be higher end stuff that still has that limitation. It's not out of the question at all. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they have a new product coming that our understanding is will support 444, but for right now, what's on the market is 422 from them. So, as I mentioned before, 422 is still double the color information. So you do still see a benefit. I see a benefit on my screen playing 4K cinematic between the higher bit rate and the double chroma information. So, I would say it's a there's still a tangible benefit there, even if the display does its processing in 422. And I would encourage people not to get too wrapped around the axle about trying to
to get 444 through the entire pipeline if that's going to compromise the sort of cinematic experience of the product, because 422 is still a significant update.
I guess
but you know home theater guys, they get their panties in a bunch, right? If they can't get everything, and I'm one of them for sure. Fortunately, my projector supports it, so I think I should be good.
Yeah, I think telling the average home theater person not to get wrapped around the axle about something is probably a lost cause. But I got to do it. I did, as I say, do a gut remodel of my entire house in order to build up a theater. So
a little bit of scope creep there.
I'm not someone to preach to the audience about half measures. So.
But also, just to make it explicit, if you got a Strato K, you downloaded a 4K cinematic movie from the Kaleidescape store, you're connected to a display or a video processor that is 422, not 444. It's not as though you get a blank screen. Like, you're going to get an image. That movie is going to play. It's not going to throw up an error message and say, sorry, your display doesn't support 444 and therefore I don't play. It's not going to be that.
No, okay. And I mean, in worst case, the player itself can do downsampling
sure.
if required. Like, we can play 4K content out at 1080p if necessary. So you'll get something, and it will be better looking than the alternative should be. Now, one thing that you may have been about to ask, and I'll just jump the gun on it, is. The other consideration that we're aware of is that there are some other video components that might be part of the pipeline. So, for example, perhaps your audio processor, your receiver, et cetera, that may have functionality where it does things like, overlay onto the screen, information about the audio signal or the volume level or that
just your
kind
volume
of stuff.
level showing up on screen. Sure.
Exactly. And there are some instances of that equipment where that component in the video pipeline ends up downsampling any video going through it to 420 because, why wouldn't you? That's all that you need. And it is less expensive to do a compositing engine if you're doing it in 420. So there are solutions available to that. Some of those processors have the ability to turn off the overlay capability, which then passes the video sort of unmodified through the processor. One of the other potential solutions is to send the video to the display first and return the audio over eARC to the processor, and that way the display gets first whack at it, and then you don't have it being affected.
Both of those scenarios
processor.
do mean, though, that if you're someone who likes seeing the volume of your AV receiver or your soundbar show up on the screen, it isn't anymore. Like, you're going to have to make some little bit of compromise, perhaps to the user experience or the graphical experience, in order to ensure that the signal does get through without having been, chroma subsampled by some other part of it, not the original source. It is something to be aware of, I think.
I think it's something to be aware of as you design the system. Yeah.
So just to stay on the 444, because look, that's for the techie side of us, that's the thing we really want to dig into, and maybe not be readily available information elsewhere, or really getting into the nitty gritty. So you really touched upon a lot of the things that we did want to ask about. Particularly that second bucket of displays that you mentioned, where the display itself completely capable of showing the full 444 signal, but this is a question that we're going to be answering on AVRant podcast for people who want to check what's going on, because I've got a display, an LG G3 OLED, and I don't think that's a slouch of a display. It's 3 years old at this point, but it's not some kind of rinky-dink display, and it is fully capable of 444. But in that case, I do have to manually toggle on, and it's not pure plug and play. I have to manually toggle on 444 pass-through, or there are plenty of displays where you actually have to manually change the name of the HDMI input to PC to get it to accept the full 444 signal without down chroma sample. Yeah. That has been a thing that Vincent Tio has been warning people about. If they want to connect it to their computers and get the full RGB signal there, you have to manually name it PC for that particular HDMI input. So things like that, like where I'm coming at it from Kaleidescape's side of things is there like any concern on your end that someone buys that Strato K player, they buy some 4K cinematic content, but unbeknownst to them, there's one of these manual changes they have to make to their HDMI input label or something in their video processor, and you wind up with the scenario of they're not getting everything they necessarily thought they paid for, and it's not that it isn't capable, that it's purely a customer service and a tech support type of thing. Like, are there instructions in the box? Is it that simple? Or is it like you're relying on dealers to sort of educate customers on that side of things?
Yeah, I would say there's a spectrum of, things that we've done and plan to do to address that. So starting with the box, there is there's a flyer in the box with a QR code to scan to take you to the installation guide, and the installation guide has a section in there about setting up your display. It's not, what we have not done with that is we have not gone through and like built a table of every display and the settings that you might want to employ. But there are, basically kind of some more general instructions of what to look for as you're configuring the display. That's for somebody who's doing self-setup.
Of course.
Majority of our products are still sold through, a dealer network with professional installation. And so obviously, we're doing dealer training as well to give the people who would be doing those installations the heads up for some of these things that need to be looked at. There is a feature that we introduced on our player products a number of years ago. In the there's a little browser interface that you can get to with a web browser for things like settings and so forth. And one of the features in there is a button that's labeled HDMI capabilities. I've forgotten the label of it exactly, but it's the video capabilities interface. So you click on it, and it brings up a pop-up window that shows you what the HDMI signal chain is reporting to us as the capabilities of your display. So it'll tell you, I can do 444 at 30 hertz and da da da. And so you can verify that what you're seeing there is correct, first of all, which means, the EDIT information is making its way correctly up the chain. Nobody is hosing you.
Yeah, that was a question I know Joe wanted to ask explicitly. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So much like the Apple TV does, is there a way to do a system check all the way through your HDMI cables, your video processor, your preamp to your display and confirm that that is a valid pathway for that level of information?
So what you can do is you can play, when you play a movie, so let's say you go play a 4K cinematic title, that pop-up window, that browser window will, there's a refresh button on it. You click that, and then it updates, and it shows you in sort of a 2-column view. This is what's in your content. So it'll say this is 4K, it's 444, it's 10-bit, and then it right next to it will say this is what the player is outputting to be compatible with your display chain. So if we are having to downsample, if we're having to reduce resolution, if we're having to do a frame rate transformation, any of that stuff is reflected there. Now, what we don't have a window into from that interface is, for example, is your display, once it accepts 4K 444, putting 444 onto the panel. We don't have, that information is not fed back to us. So this is where the last piece of the puzzle comes in, and that is that we do have in our movie store today a free downloadable title called Kaleidescape Picture Check, which is basically a title that's full of test patterns. And
it's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, it's a real barn burner of a title, but so it does not yet have test patterns specifically for identifying, are you seeing 422, are you seeing 444? but that is in the works. And so we will be developing I don't know if that title will get updated or if there'll be like a, 4K cinematic picture check specific variant, but we will have some test content available that you'll be able to play and then actually look at the screen and see.
I promise that'll be popular if you release that. There's no question that'll be a popular download.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm sure there'll be one for 8K as well for the same reason. So yeah, it is it's something to be aware of. We're pushing the boundaries here a bit on what has been done before in terms of home movie playback, and so there will be some consideration that people will have to sort of understand to get things configured so that you're getting the full benefit of it.
Yeah. I've got one more just to press you on the tech side of it because, again, you mentioned how there's the displays where it's the game mode in particular that supports 444, or like I said, the relabeling it PC mode or things like that, or 444 pass-through. And one thing that, I'm aware of for sure on the user end of things is that very often you will get your display calibrated. But sometimes that calibration, it's input by input, but it can also be picture mode by picture mode. And so you've gone into the filmmaker mode or the professional mode or something like that, and that is fully calibrated. But what do you know? I want to get this 444 signal. I therefore end up with my display now in game mode or PC mode or something along those lines. And maybe I'm aware, but maybe I'm not, that calibration I used to have didn't carry over to this new mode that I'm using. So again, from Kaleidescape's point of view, is there any concern that it's like, the person starts playing a 4K cinematic movie on their brand new Strato K, and they're like, oh, I definitely see a difference, and it looks worse. And it's not because of the content, and it's not because of the player, it's because they didn't realize their calibration just went away because it went into game mode or something like that.
For sure that's a consideration. And that is something that like our support folks are aware of. So, if somebody were to say, hey, I downloaded this title, I played it, it looks weird.
Very blue and very bright.
Right. Yeah. That would be for sure the first path that we would go down in that in this sort of diagnostics and troubleshooting of that. So I mean, to the extent that we can try to stave off that kind of problem with better tools, better documentation, and so forth. That's something that we have invested in the past, and I'm sure we'll continue to invest in because self-installation for Kaleidescape gear is relatively new, in the sort of grand picture of the arc of Kaleidescape for the first 15 years of the company's existence, at least, we were basically a completely professionally installed product.
Sure.
And it has been slowly growing since then that people do their own installation. And so
I'd have to think that the Strato E and Strato M in particular, that there's many more people who are doing end user install on those units simply because of price point, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly, and channel as well. Those products.
You can get a Best Buy,
actually,
right?
Going back to the earlier Stratos, those are available in sort of the Magnolia section of Best Buy, for example.
Yeah,
so certainly someone could walk in and take one home, and Magnolia would happily set it up for you, but you don't have to avail yourself of that. So it's definitely it is something that we are continuing to improve as time goes on, because it probably would. I think that there will be a large component of dealer installation for the foreseeable future, but it's certainly the case that there will be some DIY installation too, and we want those customers to have a great experience just as much as we want the dealer-supported customers to have that.
Well, with all of that, like heavy tech section, I think I'll just plug ourselves a little bit because, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to be bothering Kaleidescape's customer service, and I do recommend you get in touch with Kaleidescape's customer service, but if you got more questions and you're just like, man, I don't want to take up all their time, question at avrant.com. I mean, this is our bread and butter, is answering these types of really in-depth, like, okay, I think everything's working, but for some reason it's not getting through my AV receiver in full 444, and it's like, that's the type of stuff we love to help you out with. So we'll just plug ourselves right there. I think it's a perfect opportunity to do so.
Well done.
Well, so Mike, let me ask you this question. If I'm asking for a friend, not for myself personally, but
Sure.
With the Strato K being the new flagship player, if I'm hooking it up to an existing Terra, will it make non-4K cinematic files look better, or will they be the same? Thoughts?
Generally speaking, they'll be the same.
Okay.
What you will see is, depending upon your previous player, the Strato K does have a full 4K 60 frame per second user interface. The previous couple of players, the Strato V and the Strato E, played full 4K video, but the on-screen display was actually rendered in HD, in 1080p, and then upscaled to 4K for the output. So this is, in a sense, a return to form. The Strato C had a full 4K user interface, although I think K's graphics are a bit faster. So generally speaking, the animations are smoother than they were on Strato C. But this, again, was, there was a chip family transition between C and V, and that was just a chip capability factor, that drove the HD display on those models. So,
yeah, so the K is almost 2 generations beyond where the C was, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And like, would you be saying that with either the 8K or the 4K cinematic that's exclusive to the Strato K, is it like, we see the thing where people are like, look, if you're not watching it on a 150-inch display from 10 feet away, then you're not really going to see these things. If you're watching it on a 65-inch display from 12 feet away, none of this is going to make a lick of difference. What's Kaleidescape's, attitude on that sort of question that comes up?
Yeah, I think it's not quite that straightforward, because the increase in bitrate
right.
of the 4K cinematic encode produces better results generally. And you see that in things like, fast motion, or difficult to encode things like, flowing water, fast action sequences. I don't know how often this happens in movies, but you see it on TV all the time. Confetti. And you get confetti, and the encoder just gives up.
Freaks out.
So,
or the rings that happen. The camera's moving through a dark setting with a light at the end, and you get those rings coming out, the posterization rings that come around that light.
Yeah,
source.
That too. Yeah, that sort of stair stepping effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff is improved with just better quality encode that we can accomplish by targeting the higher bitrate capabilities of Strato K. So I think there's benefit to be had regardless of the display. If you have a very large display or are sitting quite close to it, you may perceive something more of a benefit there than someone sitting farther away. But there's basically kind of something there for everyone.
All right.
So with many of the Kaleidescape owners also being MadVR, Lumigen owners, it seems like a lot of them were on the forums very quickly asking questions about 444, 420, 422. So what message do you want to make sure they're hearing as part of this conversation?
Yeah, I'd say the external video processor crowd kind of took over a lot of the threads.
Yeah, that certainly. I mean, and it's understandable, because also, like, the sort of person who installs an external video processor is the sort of person that's going to be particularly concerned about that sort of thing. I know, for example, that the folks at MadVR already had a kind of a white paper with their recommended settings for using their processor with Kaleidescape. I believe that they either have updated or are updating that specifically for Strato K and 4K Cinematic. I am not sure of the status with Lumagen on that, if they have like done sort of setup documentation specifically optimized. But I think we talked about it before. The current generation Lumagen processors, as I understand it, have a 422 video pipeline internally. It should basically just work. When I hooked up my Strato K in place of my Strato C in my theater, I didn't do anything to the Lumagen, and it looked great. So, consult your video processor manufacturer for best practices, I suppose.
Bit of a team effort, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's they, as I said, the folks at MadVR already were proactive in having a guide for our earlier players to maximize that. And they have that for other source devices as well. So, they want people to have a great experience. And I think my experience with Lumagen in terms of support from them has always been stellar. They're very, very good about, addressing questions or if there's, if you find a bug, fast turnaround on fixing stuff like that. So, I think both of those companies are very responsive to their owners and do a really good job supporting.
All right. Well, can we talk price? We should ask how much does a Strato K cost? First and foremost, people should get that information. I'm sure they can find it, but we might as well say it right here.
Yeah. Well, you're asking an engineer about about pricing information. So, if you like,
I'm pretty sure we're at $49.95. I think that rings a bell. Joe can double check me there.
I didn't want to say that and then have somebody basically coming after me saying that was the price.
And that would be $4,995. We're not talking $49.95. That would be quite the deal.
Boy, that would be cool. It is $4,995. I just pulled up the price list to double check.
Yep.
So that is the price of the player. And then I think the other thing I don't think we've mentioned yet that we should talk about is content pricing.
Yes.
I sort of suspect that you might have been going in that direction.
Absolutely, yes.
So 4K Cinematic, from our standpoint, from our ecosystem, is treated as a variant of 4K, which means that it's the same price as 4K. And it also means that if someone, is an existing Kaleidescape customer and they have a library of 4K titles, if they purchase a Strato K, they can immediately download the 4K cinematic versions of the titles that they already own. Where there's a process underway that started obviously before we shipped the player of actually encoding 4K cinematic titles. So I think we did an announcement today that we just completed our 200th 4K cinematic title. Captain America, the original Captain America movie, happened to come in at number 200. So that process is continuing. And actually, if you have one of our systems and you have a Strato K, you'll be proactively notified through the movie store or the mobile application when there are 4K cinematic updates available for a movie that you own. No additional cost.
Okay.
8K, one of the things I think that is sort of maybe not well understood with content generally is that for all electronic retailers, including us, there is essentially kind of a wholesale pricing model where the studio sets a wholesale price and then the retailer, it's up to the retailer to set their retail price. But there's a whole formula that goes into it. And the long story short is, from a very realistic standpoint, the price is set by the content licensor, by the studio, with a little bit of wiggle room for the retailer. And the same will be true for 8K. And because right now we don't have any 8K theatrical titles, we're completely over the finish line with getting them licensed. We don't know what the pricing is going to be on them yet.
Okay.
So we'll see. I would not be surprised if they command a premium compared to 4K, but I don't know what the price will be.
Okay. Yeah,
so,
Joe, you wanted.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about the Mezzanine Files coming from the studios, and that's where we're getting these 4K cinematic files from. Are the Mezzanine Files that Kaleidescape is getting the same as what Apple or Amazon or Netflix or any of the other streamers getting, and it's just how you're encoding those that's the difference?
So, we don't know what everybody else is getting because they're getting whatever they're getting. But I believe that it's the case that, generally speaking, they're the same. There may be some differences in some cases, but you have to understand that from the studio standpoint, there's an investment involved in making a mezzanine file, and so they have a motivation to not do a lot of those. So I think that it's probably commonly the case that there's commonality. At least I don't think we're getting unique files. Let's say it that way. I'm sure that what we are getting is something that other retailers are getting. I don't know whether or not there are differences between certain retailers. But yeah, we're the only people doing obviously the sort of treatment that we're doing for 4K cinematic to be able to deliver this additional chroma information because nobody else can play it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you might be watching 90% of it on a Kaleidescape and only be seeing 10% of it if you're streaming that same thing.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. It's really up to whoever's doing the encode to determine, how they're going to encode it. And I think it's pretty well established that if you look at if you just compare the different streaming platforms, some of them are producing a better end quality image than others. And
it can change from device to device, even with the same service.
Or hour to hour, depending on your internet.
That's right.
Also certainly true. And, some of them are optimizing things in one particular direction. Some of them are optimizing in another direction. And so, we are certainly, we're making the same sorts of decisions in terms of, how are we balancing, the various parameters that we can work with in order to deliver the best quality result. One of the benefits that we have is, compared to various other sources, is we're unconstrained by something like physical media size. A lot of our movies exceed the capacity of even a 3-layer Blu-ray disc. So that we don't have to make trade-offs to fit on an optical disc. And similarly, because we are downloading to the player and not streaming it live, we are not constrained to the same degree with sort of overall bit rate by making something that's going to stream successfully to the broad market that have all kinds of different capabilities in terms of like their home broadband and so forth. Like you said, different hours of the day. Somebody like pick your favorite streaming provider. They will have encodes for a movie at multiple tiers of bandwidth, and the streaming process dynamically adapts to the bit rate that your internet connection is able to deliver. We don't have multiple encodes in the same way. We have one. It's the one that you download. So all the 4K cinematic files are at the highest quality always.
Right. Well, just due to our limited time together, unfortunately, because, it's pretty evident we could keep chatting for quite a while here, but we did allude to there are still the other model numbers that are in the Kaleidescape lineup, and we've just been curious, do those letters stand for anything? Because, if we go from the lowest price to the highest price, it goes, MECVK, so that's not alphabetical, that's not reverse alphabetical. Is there like a mnemonic device to remember what does what, or do those letters actually have an official standing for something?
There is a method to the madness, but not a public one.
Okay, that's fair
It will
enough.
have to remain. It will have to remain a mystery.
I've like developed my own that like the E is like the entry 4K and the M is like maybe mini and like V is maybe Dolby Vision because it was the first one for the Vision and K is 8K. I don't know. That might work for me, but there you go.
You're free to make up your own interpretation.
Okay.
So then another quick question. If we look at Kaleidescape's website, and when it comes to the full-size Terra server models with removable hard drives, there's only one on there right now, and that's the big dog, the 120 terabyte unit. Will there be more options in the future on that?
I'm not gonna make a pre-announcement of products. I would say that the lineup has varied over time. And it's a combination of sort of, market forces and also, supply chain considerations.
Mm-hmm. Wait a second. There's supply constraints on memory right now? We haven't heard anything about that. My goodness.
Oh, no one has ever heard of such a thing. Yeah, certainly the broader factors in the industry in terms of both storage and memory do drive some decisions in terms of what we're able to offer, and we will continue to evaluate that situation ongoingly and do our best to come up with configurations that are delivering the best bang for the buck.
And just to reiterate, if you are buying a Strato K, it is possible to use that without an additional server. It can work fully standalone. It is a limited number. You're not going to be able to download 100 movies onto the Strato K all by itself. You'd need to add a Terra server for that, but it can function all on its own if you're like, I'm not quite ready to pay the dollar amount to add on a big storage server. And then you can basically swap out, right? It's not as though you buy the movie and just because it isn't physically downloaded onto your Strato K that you've like lost access or something, you can re-download it anytime, right?
That's right. Yeah. And there are plenty of customers, who have taken that approach. They bought in with just a player with storage, and some of them over time will decide that they want to have more movies available in the home at once, and they can add a Terra server anytime.
Right.
But it's fully supported to just download the movie and watch it. And the way that the player logic works right now is once you've watched a movie, after 48 hours, it becomes eligible to be automatically deleted. So
okay.
When you buy some other movie in the future, your previously watched movies will be automatically removed. And if you haven't, for whatever reason, you haven't watched any of the movies that are on the system, mm-hmm. when you purchase a movie, it'll just go in the queue and it'll be ready to download whenever you make space for it, either by watching something or just by saying, you know what, I'm gonna delete this one and come back and watch it again another day.
Very good. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time here. And so at the end here, we want to make sure if people want to reach out to Kaleidescape for more information, where can they go?
Yeah, www.kaleidescape.com, Kaleidescape. It is a little bit of a spelling challenge, but www.kaleidescape.com. Thank you for putting up the screen share right there. There's the contact us page. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that we would add, certainly, and we've been saying this since before Strato K was announced, and it's, I would say, even more important now with Strato K and 4K Cinematic. The best way to understand what Kaleidescape has to offer and what the experience is like watching a movie on Kaleidescape is to see one in person. And so there are features on the website to help you find your local Kaleidescape dealer. Take advantage of those and go find someone who's got the system set up in a showroom where you can go see it.
Yeah, there is a dealer locator that's part of the Kaleidescape website as well, so that can absolutely help you out on that front. So there, on that tip, was there anything we just absolutely missed and whiffed on and completely forgot to ask that you really wanted to make sure you get out there as the final word on this episode?
You guys were very thorough. So no, I think we've covered the waterfront pretty well. We're very excited by the new player. I guess one thing that I can close by saying is that we've seen just tremendous interest and demand for the new player. We pretty promptly sold through the entire first inventory that we had on hand. And so we are, continuing as quickly as possible to build new and ship. But if you're interested in purchasing a Strato K player, our recommendation is to get your order in, because right now they're going to whoever has their orders in. It will probably be some time before there's just stock on hand ready to sell on a whim. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Really appreciate all of your time today. And behind the scenes, we had another helper over from Kaleidescape, Josh, and thank you to Josh as well. I'm going to say thanks to Joe he was really the driving force on the AV Rant side of things, setting everything up here. So I really appreciate everyone's time, and I hope everybody enjoyed listening to this special episode. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so that was our interview with Michael Kobb from Kaleidescape, and thanks again to Michael, to Josh behind the scenes, and to Joe for setting it up. I think that went great. What did you think, Joe?
Great talking to him, great conversation. Glad we got a chance to do that.
For sure. So we definitely hope that you enjoyed that interview. This is a special breakout episode of AV Rant. If you've got further questions, hey, we're right here. question@avrant.com. You can reach out to us and ask questions. We did give out the contact info at the end of the interview there if you want to talk to Kaleidescape directly. By far the best way to get in touch with us, question@avrant.com, our website, avrant.com, of course. So there it is. We hope you enjoyed it. I think there was some good information spread throughout that interview there. We got into some nitty-gritty details, and we might have tripped him up a place or two there once in a while. The stuff that the engineers don't deal with on a day-to-day basis, but he acquitted himself very well, did Michael. Well-spoken, and a lot of great information there. Yeah. Any final thoughts there, Joe?
No, I'm going to start saving my pennies. Got to get one.
Yes. Yeah. It's more than I wish it was $49.95. That would have been fantastic. That would be a no-brainer purchase if that were the price.
100%.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. And on behalf of Tom Andry, this has been AV Rant. My name is Rob H.
I'm Joe Klusnick.
Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AV Rant.
Now go out and listen to something.